and welcome to KRAD COVID readings. I'm Keith R.A. DeCandido, trying to cure the coronavirus blues by reading my writing. This is going to be part 3 of Right On, Sister from LIMBUS INC. Book 3. This is obviously the third book in the LIMBUS INC. series of shared world anthologies. It was created by Ann C. Petty and edited first by Ann, and then after she died in 2013, unfortunately, taken over by Brett J. Talley, who gathered a whole bunch of really cool writers, and also me, to do stories that involve the powerful, mysterious company LIMBUS INC. This is now part 3, and the conclusion of Right On, Sister. Chapter 7. Wanda actually came back to 666 Fifth Avenue on Friday, as she could only stand Mama for so long. "Where you been?" Mama kept asking. "Earning bread, Mama. What you been doing?" "That ain't none of your business, baby girl. And why ain't you been home to make dinner?" "'Cause my job means I'm traveling a lot." "Oh yeah? Where you been going?" Wanda just smiled. "That ain't none of your business, Mama." "Don't you sass me, baby girl. You ain't too old for me to..." "To what, Mama? Take me over your knee? Easier than ever to do in this chair." It went on like that for days, before Wanda finally had to leave. When she got off on the 42nd floor, she saw a familiar face walk past her and entered the elevator to go back down. Whirling around, she peered right at him as the door closed on him. It was a brother, and one she knew. He was wearing a suit and was clean-shaven, but she'd seen him before wearing a big overcoat and all unshaved and stuff. And then she placed him, and she ran to Isabel's office. "What the hell is that cat doing here?" Isabel looked up from her computer. "Which, cat are you referring to?" "Why is Leroy up here wearing a damn suit?" "I don't..." Wanda put her hands down on Isabel's fancy desk. "Do not jive me. Why you got some crazy brother working for you? I thought the fuzz arrested his behind." Isabel just stared at Wanda for a second. Then she leaned back in her chair and sighed. "The fuzz went to the address you provided on 139th Street, but it was an abandoned building. Leroy Washington never lived there, or anywhere else in 1978. He's an employee of the department, and he was originally born in 2019 in New York City. He's also one of our more talented agents." "Agents?" "Yes. You see, Wanda, we needed you. We still need you. Recruiting you would have been possible if you'd only lost the job at Smith's Diner, but we decided the chances would be much higher if you'd lost both your jobs." "So you just sent him there to get me to lose my job?" "Well, not just that. The man Mr. Washington shot was Harold Gage, and while the doctors at Harlem Hospital were able to save his life, he was a changed man. His near-death experience made him a much more conscientious businessman." "Let me guess, you're contracted with him too?" "No, his competitors. Being conscientious led to poor judgment, unfortunately." "You wanted me that bad?" "Yes." Wanda shook her head and started walking toward the window. "It's crazy. I'm just some lady from Harlem who has a marketable skill that was being wasted in your previous circumstance. One of the reasons why Limbus is so successful, Wanda, is because we are able to identify resources that other people can't. You are, bluntly, an African-American woman in a poor neighborhood. The mainstream of your society does not recognize your talents." "Got that right." She stared at the New York skyline, which looked even more wrong. There were more and taller buildings. "What year is that?" Isabel looked over at the window. "Oh, that's around 2050, I think. Yes, I can see the Bloomberg Tower, and that opened in 50. City just keeps getting bigger. Even that New World Trade they were putting up in 2011, that was going to be bigger too." Isabel nodded. "But it's the smaller elements that we're concerned with. And I have your next mission, if you're ready." Chapter 8. Sorry, I keep looking over there because the cats are doing things. Anyway, Chapter 8. Dressing in regular clothes for the time she was in wasn't too bad in 2011. It wasn't great, but at least the early 21st century fashions weren't actively offensive. But her second assignment took her to 1943 to talk to a young man who was planning to bring a gun to an army recruiting center. He wasn't taken in the draft, and he wanted to serve, and they wouldn't let him. Wanda talked him out of it while sitting next to him at the automat on 6th Avenue, getting him to take a job working at a factory instead. And that was all well and good, but she had to wear tight, uncomfortable stockings and an ugly dress. And the shoes! Just before she went through the device, She asked Isabel, "How did ladies wear these damn heels that feel like your feet are being crushed by a damn vice? Give me platforms any day of the week. At least they let my feet breathe." The guy in the automat went on to have a moderately successful career as a musician and a record producer, and he produced several hits for a record company that Limbus was invested in. Her third assignment was during the blackout in 1965. Wanda had lived through the 77 blackout, that was when Rondell was killed, and it would have been one of the worst nights of her life even without what happened to Rondell. Just a damn nightmare with fires and looting and so on. She'd just been a kid during the 65 one, and she didn't really remember it all that well. What amazed her now, walking around in it, was that it was so quiet. There weren't as many cars on the road, and nothing was on fire, so it was a lot darker, too. A couple was looking for their 6-year-old girl, but they were too scared to go out in the blackout. Wanda saw them sitting on their stoop and talked them into going ahead and looking because it was safer than they thought it would be. "Man, that conversation would have been different in 77, she told Isabel, who replied, "But the same in 2003. They found her over by the FDR Drive, which meant she didn't die by falling into the East River and drowning, which meant she grew up to be a lobbyist who helped pass legislation that helped Limbus. And on she went, to different times, but always in New York City. One time, she convinced a farmer in the Bronx not to sell his land, which was in the middle of what Wanda knew as the Parkchester neighborhood in 1880. And then her very next assignment was talking a small business owner in Parkchester not to close her store in 2075, since she would get a big bump in sales for the tricentennial the next year. Between missions, she was always given the chance to visit home, but she did it less and less often unless she knew for sure Mama wouldn't be there. After a trip to 1999, where she talked a woman into avoiding going to Times Square on New Year's Eve, her leg would have been broken, which would have kept her from running in the New York Marathon, which was where she'd meet her future wife, she came back to see Isabel. "I'm sorry, Wanda. I'm afraid I have some bad news. Wilhelmina Jackson passed away in her sleep last night." Wanda immediately ran to the elevator and went down to catch the subway home. Mama wasn't home when she got there, but the cops who were there said that someone called 911 from the phone in their apartment, so it was probably Mama who found Gramps' body. Over the next few days, Wanda made all the arrangements. The funeral was held at their church on 129th Street, and all of Graham's friends from the neighborhood were there. The funeral home had her cremated after, which was what she wanted. Mama didn't come to the funeral, or back home. After 2 weeks of waiting for Mama to come home, or to call, or something, Wanda gave up. She gave up the apartment, since Limbus let her stay at 666 Fifth, and since Mama had disappeared. Wanda suddenly wished that they lived in the 21st century when people had their own personal phones. Then maybe she could have found Mama. But maybe this was best. When she went back to work, Isabel said, "I want to caution you, Wanda, that this next assignment is a difficult one. You can refuse it if you want." Wanda fell more than sat in Isabel's guest chair. The view was of the skyline in 1932, with the just-finished Empire State Building standing out from all the other tall buildings. "Just tell me, I need something." Isabel stared at her for a few seconds first. "All right. Your assignment will take you to July 1977. Now Wanda winced. "Say what?" As I said, you can refuse. "There's a young man named Luther White who needs to be convinced to take action." After Isabel hesitated, Wanda rolled her eyes. "Just say it already." "It's not pleasant. Up until now, your assignments have all been what one could call a positive outcome. Not getting hurt, not hurting people, not dying. None of these have been what you would call life or death situations, truly. But this is, yes." "What, you need me to tell this Luther White cat to kill someone?" "Yes." Wanda's eyes went wide. "Say what? I was kidding!" "I'm not. Luther White needs to shoot a gangster who goes by the name of Shorty. Unfortunately, we don't have any pictures of Shorty. He avoids cameras quite skillfully, which is much easier in the 1970s. But if Shorty lives, we do know that he will get several other people killed, including both his girlfriends, a waitress and a bookkeeper, and also start a gang war with the Italian mafia that will result in the deaths of many innocent bystanders. He himself will still die in 1981. But if he's killed in 1977, many more people will live, one of whom is a major asset to Limbus. One of them innocent bystanders?" Isabel just said, "If you don't want to take the job..." Nah, it's cool. I figured you'd be laying something like this on me sooner or later. Y'all are too nasty to always be sending me on nice assignments. The good thing was that she could wear normal clothes. But that was the only good thing. The last place in the world she wanted to go was New York on July 13th of last year. Or actually July 12th, since that was when she was supposed to meet up with Luther. It was at a bar, which was one of Mama's favorites, but she lucked out and Mama wasn't there. Luther's file said he had a thing for ladies with short afros, flat noses, and really dark skin, and Wanda already had those, which was probably why Isabel tagged her for it. "Hey, baby," Luther said to her when she sat down at the bar near him. "Let me buy you a drink?" "Damn, brother, I just sat my behind down. Give a lady a chance to settle?" "Let some other dude horn in on you? No chance, baby, no chance." Luther was about as smooth as sandpaper, but Wanda let him play his game anyhow. They shared a bunch of drinks, eventually moving from the bar to a table. "I gots to say, baby, you are a fine distraction." Wanda got all fake outraged. "Distraction? That all I am to you?" "Oh, I'm hoping for more. You can believe that. But right now, well, life's full of some complicated shit." "Excuse me," he added quickly. Wanda had already made clear how much she hated profanity. "Complicated how?" "There's this bad dude named Shorty. He needs to go, you dig?" "Go where?" "You don't need to worry about that, baby." Pointed. "Don't talk to me like I'm no child. Look, if the brother needs to go, he needs to go." "I just don't think I can do it." "Do what?" Luther looked away. He'd been staring right at her the whole time. It was actually kind of freaky, and if she'd really met him in a bar, she'd have already left the bar to get away from this cat by now. But he couldn't look at her anymore. "I've been living the life since I was a kid. I rumbled with some dudes, but I ain't never..." He couldn't even finish the sentence. Wanda got up. "Where you going, baby?" Luther reached out to grab her arm. She shook his hand off. "Sorry, but I got feathers in my drink." "What you talking about, baby?" "I was thinking that you was a man, not a chicken." He stood up to face her. "Don't nobody call me no chicken, bitch." She got in close to him. "Then don't be no chicken, fool. You said this shorty got to go, then he got to go. Only question is if you man enough to be the one who escorts his behind out." He kept staring at her, all angry, and then he looked away. "All right, yeah, you right, baby, you right." "Damn right I'm right." "Let's sit back down, okay, baby? I don't want to ruin a fine evening like this." "Nah, I'd best be getting on." His face fell, but she put a finger to his lips. "I'm busy tomorrow, but the day after, I'll be right back here. You come back, you tell me you done what you said you was gonna do, and then we'll pick up where we left off, you dig?" Luther grinned. Out of sight. Wanda left the bar as quick as she could. She had to get back to 666 Fifth. She did what she was supposed to do, and she had to get the hell out of there. She did not want to be present during the blackout. On her way to the place Limbus had rented for her over on 140th, she stopped. Maybe she could stay. Head over to the St. Nicholas houses tomorrow night, and she could actually see how Rondell got shot. She'd only been there after the police had cleared out the place after the shooting, not seeing Rondell's body until 3 days later at the morgue. Wanda shook her head. There was no reason to see that. And she couldn't change it. She'd read the contract, and it was pretty clear that if she did anything on an assignment that wasn't specific to the mission, she'd be terminated. With everything LIMBUS INC could do, terminate could mean anything. She wasn't risking it. Besides, Isabel had talked about all those nanocams around. That was how they knew about her own craziness on July 13th, so she could always... Again, she stopped walking. Another pedestrian almost crashed into her and cursed her out for stopping in the middle of the sidewalk. For a few seconds, she just stood there, angrier than she'd ever been in her life. Then she ran back to the place on 140th and used the device to get back home. Isabel was waiting for her like usual. "Good job, Wanda. I know that was a tough..." "Stuff it, bitch! Why you lying to me?" "I'm sorry?" Isabel's head snapped back like Wanda had slapped her. "I didn't..." "You said there wasn't no pictures of this Shorty cat, but y'all got those damn nanocam things, so y'all know what Shorty looked like, so why didn't I get to see him?" Isabel sighed and shook her head. "I did tell the committee that you might figure it out." "Committee?" "The committee that runs the department. My bosses. They insisted on the manner in which I presented you the assignment precisely because it was felt that you should not know the true identity of Shorty." "Why the hell not?" "Come with me." Isabel led Wanda to the big screen room. She pulled a remote control out of the pocket of her pantsuit. It was turquoise today. One of the screens on the wall got bigger, superimposed over all the others. Wanda followed, fuming, wondering who this committee thought they were. Then she stared at the screen. It showed the courtyard of the St. Nicholas houses. It was night, and none of the apartments had lights on. There was a barrel that was burning, and that was the only light. It had to be the night of the blackout. Rondell was standing there facing two men. One of them was Luther. She whispered, "No." The one who wasn't Luther said, "End of the line, shorty." "Man, this is some messed up bullshit. Y'all know who you fucking with, do you, motherfucker?" "Yeah, we do," Luther said. "We fucking with a dude who gots to go. Bumpy put the word out on you that you was trouble. Now we doing what gots to be done. Don't nobody fuck with Shorty, you dig? Nobody. I will kill you and your family and your..." Luther held up a .38 revolver and shot Rondell 4 times. Isabel stopped the playback and restored the screen to its usual small size with the rest. "I don't believe this," Wanda whispered. "How is this?" She shook her head. "This cannot be happening." In fact, it already did. "Wait. You said that Shorty, Rondell, that he had 2 girlfriends?" "The waitress was you. The bookkeeper was a woman named Patricia Sheridan." "Say what? I know Trish. That bitch goes to my church." "And Rondell cheated on you with her. To be fair, he cheated on her with you as well. Oh, and that $1,000 you had to pay back because Rondell didn't read a contract, that was a lie. He lost that $1,000 in a heroin deal that went wrong, and he was forced to pay it back. That was what started him on the road that led to him being declared persona non grata by Wendell Bumpy Ross, one of the major crime bosses in Harlem, which is why Luther White shot him." "Why did you make me do that?" Wanda asked angrily, her confusion and sadness being completely took over by being pissed. "Because you were the only agent who would have been able to talk Luther into it. You were his type. And as I said, if Rondell hadn't been shot that day, you would have been killed, thus costing us a major asset." "Say what?" Isabel smiled softly. "Wanda, the main life that we needed to save, the major Limbus asset that needed to be preserved by making sure that Rondell Smith died on the 13th of July, 1977, was you." Chapter 9. Wanda walked out of 666 Fifth right after that. She just started walking up Fifth. Eventually, she came to the corner of 59th Street. FAO Schwartz was on her right, the Plaza Hotel on her left. She could never afford the toys at Schwartz, although Grams did once get her a rocking horse from there for Christmas. That lasted for about 2 years before Pops broke it. He said it was by mistake, but Wanda never believed him. She walked up into Central Park. Maybe she'd get mugged and put out of her misery. Isabel had let her go, but she knew that wouldn't last. She'd signed up for 10 years, and she hadn't even finished the first year yet. Breaking the contract was also grounds for termination, and she was even more sure now that whatever they meant... She was even more sure now than ever that they meant to terminate in the nastiest way possible. She had nowhere to go. Grams was dead. Mama was missing. The super was living back in their old pad. She didn't have any real friends, just a few people at church and maybe Frida. Hell, she'd been so busy working 2 jobs, she didn't have time for friends, particularly after Rondell got shot. Eventually, she wound up at the carousel. She decided to pay the fare and ride one of the brown horses. Grams used to take her to the carousel when she was a little girl, but she hadn't ridden on it since she was 12. She always rode on the brown horse. The stupid music started playing on the calliope, and the brown horse moved up and down in a slow, steady rhythm. The breeze blew through Wanda's short afro, that same short afro that Luther thought was so groovy, as she leaned back, holding onto the golden pole. Rondell lied to her. Hell, that was the real reason she didn't have any friends. After Rondell died, she just stopped giving a damn about her own life. She'd work her jobs and make enough so that she and Grams and Mama could live, but there was nothing else except church on Sunday, and she didn't talk to anybody at church either. It was all a lie anyhow. Rondell was a gangster, and a cheater, and a liar. And Wanda was the one who got his fool behind killed. Did he deserve to die? He was going to die in 81, or at least that's what Isabel said. And Wanda herself and Trish and other people would be dead also. Then again, she'd been to 2075. Everyone she knew was dead by then. And everyone she met in 1880 was dead by her time. carousel slowed down, and Wanda hopped off the brown horse. A major asset, Isabel had called her. That was definitely new. By the time she made it back to 666 Fifth, it was starting to get dark. She took the elevator up to the 42nd floor. When she'd been in 2011, she'd actually used the internet to look up the building, and officially it only had 41 floors. She wanted to talk to Isabel about it, but that could wait for another time. There was only one thing to say to her right now. Isabel was actually packing up her stuff to go home when Wanda walked in. Wanda, are you all right? No, I ain't never gonna be all right. But that was true before you left that damn card in my door. Fact is, I ain't got nothing. I ain't got my jobs no more. I ain't got Grams no more. I ain't got Pops no more. I ain't got Mama no more. And looks like I ain't never had Rondell in the first place. All I got left is you. Besides, I signed the damn contract. Isabel nodded. Good. I'm glad we understand each other. Get some rest. I'll have a new assignment for you tomorrow. Right on. And that's the end of that story. Hope you enjoyed it. You can pick up Limbus Inc. books 1, 2, and 3 from all the usual online book dealers or directly from JournalStone, the publisher. There's some really cool, nifty stuff in there by, like I said, lots of really great authors. Check me out online at DeCandido.net, at DeCandido.wordpress.com, which is my blog. And on that blog, I'm running some samples from my Patreon, which is at patreon.com/KRAD. I'm trying to get up to 60 supporters. I just passed 50 recently, and I want to push to get more. I've got samples from each of the tiers on my Patreon up on my blog this week. A sample movie review, my review of John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. Sample TV review, which is my review of Jessica Jones Season 3. 5 of the cat pictures that I put up. I have very photogenic cats. And there's usually like at least 2 or 3 cat pictures per week. I put up about 4 or 5 different little excerpts from my various recent works in progress. I put up the first draft of one of the chapters of Tell and Regroup. And I also put up one of the vignettes that I've done, specifically a Dragon Precinct one called Remembrance, which focuses on Torrin Van Wibbled. So check that out. Please consider supporting my Patreon. There's lots of really great stuff on there that I think deserves a wider audience. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and please stay safe. I'll see you all next week. Take care.